That's just half and half.
You know, take a thing. You got a thing. Put something on it.
Son, Kurt's making a special effort.
Every time I ask somebody, one day.
For Torah study, Saturday morning, or for anything.
But here.
Yeah. These are acting. I have to take the rate. But then that's out of here. Okay, perfect. Would you like paper and pen? I know. Okay. Let me have to like a weird. It's weird. No, it's not.
We are live.
Okay, does everyone have a name tag? No? Bobby, is it B-O-B-B? Guys. So what's neat, Fran, you know.
What's your name say? I can't tell. Rashina.
Alright, so I'll need the name tag. Does anyone else need paper and a pen? I'm a big learner. Anyone else need paper and a pen?
Picking up this.
Oh, you need paper.
If you'd like. I have.
One piece would do.
There you go. Let's see, who else needs the name tag?
Anybody, she evidently wants to stay that you, and then you have a.
What is your name?
May I know?
Take.
I had.
That's how I.
Checking us out, checking me out. Talent, H-E-L-E-S.
I'm going to every year.
And I have to be. Okay, everyone has everything, we have paper, we have pens, we have our name tag. Okay, great. I think we're gonna get started then. All right, we'll get started in about a minute, so if anyone needs anything to drink or okay, great.
Kurt, get that together.
Okay. Right now, we don't have anyone online, so I'm gonna stand.
Someone just asked me, I don't know if you started the Zoom, but she said, if I'm here, please ask the rabbi to let us in the Zoom room.
Okay, let me see, I don't see anyone in
do
the
that
waiting
before.
room. Let me see, Ron, do you see anyone in their waiting room?
No, there's nobody there. It looks like you got them all in your room.
Yeah, we, see if they have the right,
The Feldmans.
they're not in the waiting room, so I don't see them, yeah.
If they show, I'll let them in.
When they come in, yeah, Ron will let them in, for sure.
Can't see you, but I can fit over there.
Okay, so we're all set, okay,
Not famous.
great.
Maybe I just one of us.
Okay, welcome everybody. Hello, okay. I'm gonna stand until they come here so I can see all of you. So first of all, it's such a joy to be with all of you here for our first lunch and learn together. I'm Rabbi Laila Haas, and it's just such a pleasure to be here at Temple Beth El. And it's been an amazing month and a few days. Everyone has been so warm and welcoming, and it's just been a joy for my family and for myself. And today is just so exciting because this is really, not only is it a topic of mine that I cherish and love, this phrase, Hineni, but learning together brings me such joy and fills my spiritual cup, and being able to learn from each and every one of you. Our tradition teaches that we all have the opportunity to teach. We all have the opportunity to learn, wherever stage of life that we are, wherever experiences we've had and yet to have. That learning helps us to partner together on an incredible sacred journey. And I look forward to doing that with you over the next few weeks. So we're going to be diving into Hineni. And I'm not going to say much more about that yet, because I want you to just allow the word Hineni to sort of just enter into your consciousness. I want you to hear the word Hineni. I want it to sit on your mind. I want you to think about it. And it's okay if you don't know what the word Hineni means. That's okay. If Hineni is a word you've heard before, wonderful. If Hineni has been presented to you in other shapes, forms, Torah classes, fabulous. But today we are going to literally start from the very beginning. So doesn't matter on what part of the journey you've experienced, doesn't matter how much of Torah, or little of Torah that you dove into, we're starting together from the beginning of the journey. So what I wanted to do first is I wanted to go through introductions. I want us to go around the room, and we all have name tags so that we can see each other's names, but that's only the first part of introducing ourselves, is our name. You're gonna say your name and you're gonna just share with me, when you hear the word Hineni, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Here I am.
Okay, that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna start on this side of the room. Okay, good.
I'm Anita Eisenberg, and when I hear the word Hineni, I'm here.
Okay, Anita hears, I am here.
Can I speak louder?
Yes. We are going to practice projecting our voices, because we are on a Red Sea moment here, where half of us are in Egypt, half of us are on the desert, and there's this big divide in the middle of the Red Sea here. So we're going to pretend as if we are shouting over the sea here. Okay, so Anita hears, I am here. Thank you.
Susan Calvert. Sorry, Susan, she not my good. The three of us. Anyway, I am here also because I just discussed it.
Okay, good. So Susan and Anita both here, I am here. Okay.
Judith Chasen, I had no idea what to say. That was really good. I think to be in the present, for me to always be in the present.
Beautiful. Okay, Judith, I'm in the present. Beautiful.
Carol Steinberg. I really don't know.
Beautiful. So we have,
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know. So if I am here, I in the present, I don't know. Beautiful,
Lauren Kirshner, I hear God calling out to me.
beautiful. Okay, so we have a divine call. Okay, lovely.
Robin Traeger, I am here, see me.
Hmm. I am here, I am present, I don't know, God is calling, here I am, see me. Beautiful, thank you.
I'm Linda Weiss, and I'm very literal, so here I am, that's what I hear.
That's beautiful, okay, that's lovely. That's it, very literal, that's good, well, we now know a little bit more about you.
Could you repeat
Beautiful.
what you said, please?
Here I am.
Okay, please.
This is for Susan. I'm Margaret Cutler, all of those things, but it's the idea that I'm listening and definitely in the present. Listening.
Listening. Okay, so we have a call, a divine call. We have see me. We have, I'm physically here, and then we have, I'm listening. Beautiful.
Hi, my name is Fran Wizard, and when I heard Hineni, right away, my mind is Hineni Mato Bumanai, so right away, Hineni, why not Hineni Mato Bumanai?
Okay.
So that's what I felt and thought.
I love that. So, right, so Hine is behold, right? And for you, it is,
Musical.
it's musical. There's a rhythm to the word. Okay, so we've got some more movement here. I love it. We've got a call, we've got presence, we have being seen, we have being listened to, and now we have some movement. Beautiful. I love that.
I'm Sunny Fall. Hineni means to me, I'm here for you, God, and my family.
Hmm, beautiful. So now we have some more people adding into the mix here, right? I'm here for you. So it's not just I'm physically, but I'm here for you, I'm here for my family
And God.
and God. Beautiful.
I am also Susan. I'm a very popular name. We know when we were all born. Was really born. No lying about your age. I joined Temple Bethel 43 years ago, took a little break, rejoined a few years ago. And I'm here to give and to get.
Ooh, beautiful. So we are here, we are present, we have a call. We have, I am seen, see me. We have some movement, we have listening, for, and now to give and to get.
Right, and ideally to get some kind of amplification system in this room.
Are we all right? Okay, so it can mean lots of different things. Good, thank you.
Well, there are two people who are in their home trying to do Hineni because they're not here.
Okay,
And they said they clicked on the link in the weekly email and nothing's happening for them.
okay.
Okay, somebody else go for Jill.
It's Sue and Steve Feldman. If they want to reach,
They know.
somehow get to them, I don't know.
This Sue.
They Zoom all the time.
Okay, so we can, I'll give them the, if you want to text them the meeting ID, we can do that. Let me just ask Ron
Just
to
says
read it
on
out
the
loud.
thing, Zoom, so.
Okay. If they want to go to Zoom, they can enter in the meeting ID. Ron, are you there?
I am, the ID is 831-2246,
Hold on, we have to go slower. 831
831
2246,
2246
5655.
5655.
Okay,
Ron,
and they
is this
can-
something new? You
and
don't
they-
just press
so
Zoom?
how do they do that?
They can go to Zoom and they can just type in,
Okay.
join a meeting, and they can enter in that number.
Right, because there's no passcode.
Yeah, no
Guess
password.
we never had that.
Okay, I did that.
Okay,
So when I saw Hineni, I thought it was like a double meaning because Hineni is you.
here I am. I like the way you think,
It's
okay.
introducing you, here I am. And to me, it's also just being present in the moment for whatever comes.
Yeah.
That you are centered, that you're there, whether it's for God or your friends or your family.
Beautiful, so centeredness, but also an introduction.
I hear you, I'm here for you.
Beautiful, beautiful, thank you.
I'm Susan, so I said your name. Bobby.
Copy.
I'm Susan Sosin, and when I hear Hineni, I think of God calling to Abraham
Mm,
and in and the connection between God and him by saying, I am here, is every time I hear the word, I just think of this incredible connection that not just Abraham, but that we have.
They got it.
excellent. Okay, beautiful. So connection. Thank you. So connect, I see you, hello. So connection, beautiful, between not just, you have Abraham and God, but also this notion of
I think
connection.
that's the first time it appears, right,
Yes.
in the Bible.
That's it.
Beautiful.
Hi, I'm Rashina, and I think of a humble voice, like an affirmation almost. Connection as well, but I think about the fact that God could say it as loud or in different ways as God would like to speak or connect with us. But it feels to me like just like a really humble way of saying it. And so when I even listen to myself and say that word to myself, I come at it with the same sort of humility,
Beautiful.
quieter.
So this humility, we're introducing ourselves and we're also sharing, when we hear the word Hineni, what's the first thing that comes to our minds? And we will get to you who are on Zoom in just a moment. We're just going around the room.
My name is Judith Lazar. Currently, I teach at Baptist, but I've been teaching probably for 100 years, close to 100 years. And I always do the same.
You must be exhausted.
I always do the same lesson the first day of school, whether it's the little ones or adults or whatever. I have them draw a self-portrait and write either in transliteration or if they can do the Hebrew letters, the word Hineni.
Beautiful.
And so they really have to think about themselves and why are they there and who they are. And I'm not gonna go into a whole story, but basically that's it. So when I saw Hineni, I'm looking at in my mind's eye all the pictures that the kids have done, you know, over the years. Next time I'll bring one. in to
Oh, that would
show
be
you.
beautiful. Please do. That would be wonderful. And who knows, that may be a concluding activity for all of us.
Ah.
That is beautiful. Thank
Tell
you.
you to get cheap frames.
Okay. So good. So just to bring our friends in here. So we have Hineni is, I am present. I am physically here. It's a divine call. It's see me. It's literal. Here I am. It is, listening. It is, I am here for, I'm here for. It's this idea of connection. I'm giving, I'm getting. To something, it's a humble voice within us. And then also this notion of children, of generations, all hearing this word, but also in their reflection. So beautiful, please.
I'm Helen Perlman, and I'm so glad I'm at the end of this circle because I had no idea what Hineni means. I don't even know how to spell it. I'm gonna go with what everybody says is like the perfect meaning for it. So would you please spell it for me? I didn't cut
Sure.
it on.
No, good. Hineni. Okay. So good. Okay. All right, let me see here. We have our friends on here. Multiple people are talking at the same time. I don't know where they went. Okay, when they come back, they can join us. Okay, beautiful. So one of the reasons why I love to start any learning together in this way is it's important to know who we are sitting with. Also what's happening in people's minds. We're all looking at one word, let's say, or one text. The text is the same, but the way that we approach the text is going to be different based on who we are and where we're coming from, what our experiences are. And it also allows us to sort of expand our understanding of whatever text we are going to be learning together. So we are going to dive into Hineni. Hineni from the literal translation, here I am. It is a call. It is something that is, the word itself appears 17 times in the Tanakh. Okay, 17 times, Hineni in that form. Only 3 of those actually are spoken from God calling out to someone. The other instances are between human beings. What's interesting is that traditionally when we hear the word Hineni, it calls us back to that Torah portion between Abraham and God, that formidable piece of Torah, right, where Abraham is called out to take his son Isaac, his only son, his beloved son, the one whom he loves, and begin a journey towards this mountaintop, a place that God will show him. And that's the place that we talk about, this binding of Isaac. That's where we beings as well. We also hear it again between God and Moses. Okay. So over the next few weeks, we're going to be studying from the Torah's perspective, these instances of Hineni, what are commentaries, what the commentaries those are going to teach us. And then we add in our own midrashim, our own commentary, our own stories, based on what are we hearing, what is happening, what are our sages saying, and now how do I lend my voice to the conversation. So that's what we're going to do together. But before we actually go into Hineni, we have to step back to the first question in the Torah. The first question in the Torah is, anyone know?
Cain and Abel, God.
Even step back a little bit, but yes, but it's even before Cain and Abel, but it's in the story of in the beginning, Bereshit. Right. And the question that God asked, the first question that God asks man is, Ayeka, where are you? So before we can actually dive into Hineni, here I am, I want us to step back and actually explore Ayeka, where are you? That's the first question that God is going to ask man. Where are you? And then subsequently, as God builds this relationship with Abraham and calls out Abraham, Abraham, and Abraham answers Hineni, oh, now we have a new relationship that has been formed between God and man. But the first is this question of Ayeka, before we even get to Hineni. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive into the text. We're going to read the Torah text itself. I gave you paper and pen. One of the things I like to do when we study text is I will read it, since I'm going to speak very loudly so you can hear the words. I'm going to do that because I want you to hear each word that we read. And your paper is, if anything stands out to you, if you hear a word differently, if you say, wait a second, I have a question about that, just jot it down. And we're going to go through the lines of the text, and we're going to ask your questions. We're going to understand what is it teaching us, and then we'll explore together. So we're all good? Good. Everyone's still Hineni? Okay, great. Okay, wonderful. All right, so get to one. And I'm going to share the screen so that you can see the text. Okay. Okay, so we'll begin with the blessing for the study of Torah together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahasot b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of all, who howls us with mitzvot and commands us to engage. Lahasot is also from like business, engage in the work, in the business of, engage with the words of Torah. So that's what we're going to do. This is an active engagement with the text. So here we begin. This is from Genesis 2. The days of creation have happened. The world has been created. Okay. So God cast a deep sleep upon the human. We are now in the first instance of the creation of man. Cast a deep sleep upon the human, and while he slept, God took one of his sides and closed up the flesh at the site. And God fashioned the side that had been taken from the human into a woman, bringing her to the human. Then the human said, "This one at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. This one shall be called woman, for from a human was she taken." Hence a man leaves his father and mother and clings to his wife, so that they become one flesh. The two of them were naked, the human and his wife, yet they felt no shame. Anything stand out for anyone? Any questions that you ask of the text? Bobby, please.
Who's their father? Who's his father and mother?
Okay, good question, okay, all right, so that's a question we have. All right, what other questions do we have? What else stands out for us?
This is kind of related, but so whose translation is this?
Right, okay, great question, because every translation is different, but also is commentary. Right, so this one is from Sepharia. I took this from Sepharia's JPS translation.
So they were not ashamed that they were naked, but they didn't know any different because all the animals are naked.
Okay, so we're focused on this, right? The two of them were naked, and interestingly enough, this text puts in there, yet they felt no shame. So why would they? Right? Okay, good, right? Why?
I would say, just in terms of like the length of time or the reaction. The fact that the human goes to sleep and then wakes up. And like, is just plainly stating something as opposed to.
Whoa. No problem, right?
I mean, it feels like. It feels like it would be a great surprise, or you would feel something for having something happen to you while you're sleeping, but it's said like matter of fact.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, please.
In this text, it doesn't tell us why God thought that the human needed a companion.
Right, so that's a question, right?
And you don't even know if the human's a man or a woman.
Right, so from the Hebrew, Adam, right, is what's translated to be man, but Adam is also because it's Adam. Man, right, where the first is that man is just formed out of the Adamah, right, formed out of the earth. So, right, this translator put human instead of man, so thank you for bringing that up.
So we don't even see.
I have a question, I couldn't quite hear. Did you make a comment that this one at last is bone of my bones?
Right,
So why
this
does it
one
say at last?
at last, right?
What was before that?
Right, so this is actually the second instance of the creation of man. So there's two creation of man stories within the initial creation story. As if we should make things confusing enough, right? But so the first instance that we see, man is literally formed out of the earth. Man and woman, they are formed out of the earth. In this case, in this section of the creation story, right? We see here that woman is now created from man, right? This is taken from man, right? This rib is how sometimes it's translated, right? And formed out of the same substance as man, okay? So that's how we can understand this one at last is bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. Oh, all of a sudden, we are now together. We are created from the same essence, the same place, okay?
So, it doesn't indicate that he's surprised that all of a sudden this other person is there. And does he know that this person reflects him? Is it this, that she looks she looks like him in a human form. I mean, it doesn't say anything about his reaction or
Right, nothing, right?
it just, oh, somebody new is here.
Right, and it gives us the ability to not only ask the question, but to now start to think about, from our own perspective, A, why is it sort of silent there, right? Like what is, or has this man seen that, look at everything else that has been created around man, right? All of a sudden, there are these animals, there are these beautiful trees, there's God, Adam is sort of brought into a Gan Eden, into a place of paradise, right? So in some ways, we could argue, well, of course, there's another being that looks just like me. This is the way things work around here in Gan Eden, right? But on the other, in the other place, we see here that Adam, the reaction of this is don't look like anyone else in this garden. Like, yes, we don't have like a big, oh my gosh, I've got a woman, right? Like, but in many ways, oh, at last. Right? Like there's this sense of almost like a calming reaction that I have been seeking, I have been looking, I was the only one. Now at last, there is someone else
And
here.
how long did it take?
Right?
You don't know.
We don't really know in terms of like how long exactly, but we can imagine just by the statement that some time has passed. This one at last, right? I am no longer just in a relationship with a being that I cannot see, right? Things are appearing around me that are beautiful, but who do I have to speak to experience things with? Okay? So verse 25 leaves us with, yet they felt no shame. Now this, tell me.
That bothers me,
Mhm.
and it always has. Why would they feel shame? Of
course.
There is no shame in the Garden of Eden because all of the animals are naked and so is Adam.
Right, so it's there for a reason, it's calling us, it's calling our attention. That's what each of you have brought up is so beautiful, because it's the words and it's the sentiment that are forcing us to ask a question. Okay,
Well, who's the narrator? The narrator is implying about the shame.
right,
So, and the narrator is God. Well,
Okay.
From this point of view.
okay, to Bobby, the narrator is God, okay? And in this case, the narrator is saying, something about you is different than everybody else. And you're in a state that you should feel shame, but you don't feel shame because you don't know shame. You don't know this yet, but you will, right? Or you don't know yet, okay? So let's move on. Let's see what the next. Okay. Now the serpent was the shrewdest of all the wild beasts that God had made. It said to the woman, did God really say, you shall not eat of any tree of the garden? We've moved on a bit. The woman replied to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the other trees of the garden. It is only about fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden that God said, you shall not eat of it or touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said to the woman, you are not going to die. But God knows that as soon as you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like divine beings who know good and bad. When the woman saw that the tree was good for eating and a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was desirable as a source of wisdom, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave some to her husband, and he ate. Thoughts? But when did they get married? You missed the invitation. Oh, okay, great, tell me. That was a guttural reaction, tell me.
I hate this because now, first of all, I'm not Catholic. Okay.
Really?
Listen, really, thank you, Margaret. And here we go, Did she really know that, where does it say that she knew? This particular translation says that she knew, implies that she knew that the tree was different from all the other trees. But the other translation, or the first part of the story, written by a different author, so that's another whole story, doesn't imply that at all.
Okay, so your initial struggle here is,
They're blaming the woman.
okay,
Why can't the woman be kind? She's sharing what she feels is good with Carmia.
okay.
She doesn't like that.
I think
Okay.
it's difficult to make.
Okay, that's really, that's very difficult to read into this, when you've already read the other part.
So let's stay here, let's stay Hineni, let's start here, okay? Right, right, but let's look here, because I want us to dive into what's, because we're building up to, I sort of like gave away the ending, but like, we're building up to this first question. Right, and I want us to sort of stay in this moment of what we're trying to, of what we're looking for and what we're journeying towards. Look at this text in and of itself, and as we place ourselves in the framework of these questions of Ayeka, where are you? Hineni, here I am. What is this building to? The author here and the text here knows that we're getting to the question that God is going to ask. So it's nothing is superfluous. These words are here for a reason, right? So if we look at it through that lens, if we allow ourselves to look at it through that lens and that lens only now in this moment, how do you see the text? What stands out for you? And what is
Maybe
talking
they're
to you?
hiding, could be hiding.
Okay, so this notion of hiding.
She sees that the tree was desirable as a source of wisdom.
Mm,
And what God wants is for us to grow in wisdom. To me, she is not a negative, she's a positive, she's being used as the person or the subject to bring wisdom and knowledge and questioning into the world.
beautiful, beautiful. Okay, lovely. What else? Anyone else? Anyone else see anything?
I would say in the first part, what strikes me and had before as well is this idea of like a technicality. Because we're so accustomed to listening to each other, getting like multiple sources of instruction. But arguably at the beginning of this, whether you look at it as like literature or like an actual story, that the place that the idea or the assumption is that there's one divine source that you're supposed to listen to. And so if God didn't say it, well, then maybe, you know, I mean, the serpent is trying to kind of use that technicality to lead the woman to do that without shame.
Right, so the first premise is, the first thing that we learn about is that you should feel no shame. Now we enter into this other section where all of a sudden, what does the serpent tell her about this tree?
There's wisdom.
Right, it's okay. This tree is a source of wisdom. It's a source of knowing, a source of knowledge. You're not gonna die, right? All of a sudden, what's gonna happen if you eat of this? Look what he says in verse 5. Your eyes will be opened. Your eyes will be opened. You will come into a sense of awareness, of knowing, not just intellectual knowledge, but a sense that all of a sudden your eyes will be open to truly seeing what it is around you. A sense of awareness of to who you are, who this man is, what our place in this gan is. Well, we don't know that yet, right? A knowledge that there exists more to us than just our actual physical being in this place. All right?
Isn't it interesting that she's taking the word of the serpent over God?
It's fascinating.
And she didn't share her conversation with her husband.
What does she do? Here, eat it.
Exactly.
And what does he do? He eats it, right? Right? Of course it is. It's fascinating, right? Where does this dialogue come from? This dialogue does not happen between Adam and woman at this point, right? They don't sit down in the garden and say, wow, it's so nice to be here. I'm really loving our life here. This place is beautiful. Hey, did you guys notice that there's a whole lot of trees with some yummy looking things on it? Are you hungry? Right?
I had an interesting conversation with the serpent today.
Right. How was your day? Great. I spoke to a snake. Interesting, right? Like, okay, no, that doesn't happen, right? Not in these lines, right? But you're picking up on a little midrash here, okay? That you're questioning, what was this conversation? And maybe they did have a conversation.
I think that's.
And after they did have the conversation, and woman says, look, this is gonna grant us the ability to open our eyes. There's more to this than just where we currently are. Here, eat this fruit. This is gonna bring us into a sense of awareness. And he goes, yeah, I'm really interested in that too. Like that's all of a sudden, oh, now from 5 to 6, what's between the lines, right? That's the beauty of studying Torah text, but also the notion of midrash. There's something that happens between verse 5 and 6, right? That's what you're picking up on. It's not, the conversation doesn't between woman and man. Please.
I, like maybe many people here, I'm totally. The snake in Gan Eden.
Yeah.
You know, just this fear of something horrible that happened to Adam and Eve,
Yeah.
the people there, relate to the modern era. You know, how does that snake slither into our minds?
Yeah, right, like that whole snake in the grass, right? Like that whole concept. Absolutely, right? Like that's a really interesting connection to the text too, right? Like it's ingrained within us if we were taught this story from a young age, that this snake is not to be trusted, right? Like something bad is happening with that snake,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, please, and that's.
I think that's true, but see, we're putting in all the things we know.
Yeah.
These are beings, all of them, that no one knows anything good, bad, or different about anything. They're just beings. But I think that tree was chocolate.
Chocolate. Right, who needs an apple when you can have some chocolate, right? I
She's a
mean,
woman and
Susan, Tom.
Well,
Hold on 1 second, we're gonna get
I was
Susan.
gonna
and
say
then-
something, like Margaret. How did they know that they didn't have wisdom? How did they know that? I wanna learn more. Where did this come from?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, why would they wanna know more than their life the way it was?
Right. And what and I love that question, Susan, because I think also what's fascinating is that this section right here, Genesis 3, says so much about who we are as human beings. That's being formed in just these few verses, right? Because one could immediately assume they live in paradise. They live in Gan Eden. God provides everything. They don't have to do much of anything. Right? But all of a sudden, woman hears that there's something else. They don't know what that wisdom means yet, right? She wasn't lured to it by the fact that, oh, you'll be wise. That wasn't what she was after, right? That's not what he led with. What the serpent led with was, your eyes will be opened. You will know good and bad. There is something more to what you have a capacity, your capability. There is more to you than just where you are now. You will be invited into the space of questioning, of knowing, of grappling, of understanding, of thinking. That was enticing. That was interesting. We don't know if she even knew what that meant yet,
That's that's
Right.
the point I'm making, right? Well, how would she even know?
right?
How would she even know that there was something to think, that she could use her brain in another way?
And I think now she's starting to, that's what he introduces to her.
So if there was no snake in the garden, we would still be in the garden.
Yeah. It's possible. And what's interesting is that there are times in our lives, if we allow ourselves to sort of pause for a moment to think about. Maybe it doesn't look like Gan Eden, but there are definitely moments in our lives where we might not know that we have the capacity to do something else. The capability to do something more, to know and understand something differently. We might not have never known that, but there's something that introduces us to the idea. There's something that invites us to a space of knowing and awareness that we might not have ever had the opportunity to be invited to before. And we don't necessarily know when those moments are, right? Like if you think about it as children, it's pretty Gan Eden, right? Like in some cases, right? Like things are provided for you. But all of a sudden, you recognize that your little hand can do something different. You realize that you can propel yourself forward. But all of a sudden you can move on your own without being schlepped around by somebody taking you where they want to take you. And all of a sudden that invitation to knowing into a new space of awareness of self and our relationship with the world around us, all of a sudden sparks interest. I'm intrigued that I could do more. Interesting, right? Like on the surface, we might not get there we might not read this chapter 3, any other time in our. We know that we're leading ourselves to the question of Ayeka and ultimately to the statement or declaration of Hineni. It causes us to pause to say, what is so interesting about having our eyes opened and coming into a space of knowing? Because if somebody can ask me Ayeka, and if I don't know, somebody could say, where are you? I could easily, if we asked a woman before Ayeka, who knows what their answer would have been?
They have no history. They have no history of growing up. They're formed as adults.
Informed.
Just arrived.
Yeah. Okay, are we good to go to the next section?
Yes.
We're all building up to this crescendo moment? Okay, we're all with me? Okay. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they perceived that they were naked. And they sewed together fig leaves and made themselves loincloths. They heard the sound of God moving about in the garden at the breezy time of day. And the human and his wife hid from God among the trees of the garden. God called out to the human and said to him, Ayeka, where are you? He replied, I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid. Because I was naked, so I hid.
Is God calling out just to Adam or to both of them? Is there a plural?
Where are y'all? Like I'm from, I lived in the South Carolina, right? Where are y'all? Or where are you? Right? Like, okay, it could, right now it says to him, but it doesn't matter. It could be to both of them. What I want to know first, before we even sort of like extrapolate meaning from the text, is what are the words that stand out for you in this? There's a lot of interesting words here that are being used. What words?
That's not in this business of husband and wife, number one. It's like,
You gotta
where
speak
did that
louder,
come from?
Robert.
Huh?
Louder. Louder.
Speaking, yeah,
Speak louder, please.
I'm sorry, where the idea of husband and wife.
It doesn't say husband, it says human.
That's,
Okay, all right, so that stands out for you.
Yeah.
What are some other words that stand out? Yeah, please, Susan.
Where are you is both physical, where are you, and emotional, mental.
Yes, right, so the where are you is not just a physical, but it's also emotional, right? Okay, right? Because there's emotion that's wrapped up in his response too. What else stands out for us here?
I was afraid.
I was afraid. All of a sudden, he was afraid. Why? We can imagine, this is not the first time he heard God. This is the first time he hears God after a sense of coming into knowledge or awareness, okay? He's afraid. What else? What else stands out for you?
Therefore, if he was afraid, he has awareness.
You right? Okay. What else?
So
Anything else?
saw him naked when he created her.
Yeah,
And now it's a whole different thing. I didn't want you to see me that way. So
yeah.
this is,
And naked and we could, yeah, please.
I was gonna
No,
say,
please.
it's his introduction to shame.
Yeah. All of a sudden now these things are linking themselves together, right? Because I was naked, and naked we know can also be like a physical nakedness, but also naked means vulnerable. I'm exposed, I'm vulnerable, right? There's nothing to clothe me, there's nothing to hide myself, right? I am fully exposed here. Both emotionally, physically, spiritually, I am open here, right? And that makes me fearful. What is God seeing? Okay, the other things that I want us to look at here too is look at all of these action words, okay? Then their eyes, they were opened, they perceived, they sowed, they heard, okay? It was at a breezy time of day, they hid. God called out, human responds, they reply, right? All of a sudden, there's so many back and forth, there's so much action happening in just 3 verses. All of a sudden, it's as if they came alive in a completely different way. These 2 beings, Rashina.
The other thing I was gonna say, just in terms of words.
Yeah.
And verbs, like the choice to say God called, so we don't know the tone. We just the emphasis is on the human's perception of it, right? So they hear the sound of God. Hearing is also pretty neutral. If they used a different verb about it, it could sound more violent or angry or whatever. So the use of call being a very neutral verb, it kind of gives us as a reader the ability to focus more on the humans and the experience.
Yeah, right, because you're right, because it could have been.
God yelled out to humans.
Right, and they trembled. And then. Have been used in the Torah, right? But it's not here.
Aren't they afraid because like children, they disobeyed their parents?
Yeah, I mean, right, that could absolutely be, now they know, right, we did something we weren't supposed to do. You can see me, I'm now gonna hide, so you can't see me, right? Right, so there's also this interesting sense of awareness between man and woman now, is that, wait, can we hide from God? Maybe if we dip in behind these trees, God won't see us. God always saw us before, God formed us. But maybe if we stand here behind these trees, God can't see us. You might not have thought about that before.
But he replied, he didn't need to.
He didn't need to, right? He didn't.
And then there's the sewing.
Let's get to the sewing. Right. Let's bring it all back to the sewing, yeah.
She said.
She wants to bring it back to the sewing. Let's talk about the sewing. Right, what stitch is he using, the thread, right.
The knowledge image of Adam and Eve, because the kids, always want to know, and I always try to tell them CNN was not there, saw it, it's imagination of the author and so on. So they always wanted to know, well, where'd they get those clothes? How did they learn how to even sew to take a?
Right.
Or did they go down to Walmart's and find the thread that matched the?
Everything was in Gan Eden. Yeah.
So, it's something to think about, because as you said before, they could have hid behind a large animal, behind a
Anything.
tree, dove into the water perhaps, different things to think that they could hide from God. But of course, we know from moving on that we never can hide from God. But it always I always thought about the sewing.
Yeah. But I mean, what's interesting too, I love that, but also they hide among the trees. Right, which I think is just such a beautiful piece, right? Like this is the source of where they've attained this knowledge. It's also the source of this bit of a conflict here. Do we not? They hide behind that space. And then just God calls out, where are you? And they say, I was afraid. So it's okay, but that's okay. And I think that's the beauty of these two minds. Before we get to Hineni, what's interesting for us to understand is that the first time God calls out to the human, says, where are you, Ayeka? Man's response isn't, Hineni, here I am, right here, ready to serve. It's not. The first response was, I'm afraid. I heard, the first response wasn't that he hid. The first reply was, I heard the sound of you. I heard you. I know you're there. I heard you. But I was afraid. I was naked. I was exposed. I was open. I was vulnerable. And so I hid. It's a really beautiful setup for this building of a relationship between God and man, God and woman. That the first time we have this, what could have been a conflict or God calling out to us, it's not the first immediate of Hineni. The first is, I heard you. I know you're there. I was afraid. In this moment, I was afraid. I hid, knowing that there are times, God, where I'm gonna hide. God doesn't come back with them and say, how dare you hide from me? I am all powerful and omnipresent, No. Okay. So it's an interesting setup before we get to the strength that Abraham is going to show us later on. All right, which we're going to explore in a lot of detail in the next week. What is important for us, all of us, as we explore our own relationship with the word Hineni, and when are we ready to say Hineni, as opposed to times in our life when we're not prepared to say Hineni, is that Adam's first reply was not Hineni to the question, Ayeka. It was an acknowledgement that you are there, God. I wasn't ready. I'm not ready yet. I'm not in that space. I've come into a place of awareness and know. Understand intellectually now what this is all about, and that I'm actually here, and I understand that I'm rooted in this place, like I like a being that exists, but rather I am present, I'm here. But my response today to Ayeka was not Hineni, and that's okay. Marcus.
Look at this, it's it's always a great story, it's always are. But this is the point, to me, where God is separating humans from animals. This is the whole. I mean, this is just where they're taking humans, the writer is, and they're no longer just beings that eat, sleep, fornicate, whatever everybody does. They think, and they have emotions.
Yeah.
And that's the separation right here.
So I'm wondering, is the first emotion fear, or should that be the first emotion?
As opposed to,
as opposed to any other emotion, sadness, anxiety, happiness. So is fear the first emotion that they feel?
it could be. Right? I mean, I think for each of us, we can understand that emotion in many different ways. There's multiple emotions wrapped up in just that one sentence, right? So I want to leave us with just, let's see, this one from Heschel. When Adam and Eve hid from God's presence, the Lord called, Ayeka, where art thou? It is a call that goes out again and again. It is a still small echo of a still small voice, not uttered in words, not conveyed in categories of the mind, but ineffable and mysterious. It is wrapped in silence, concealed and subdued, yet it is as if all things were the frozen echo of the question, Ayeka, where art thou? Gosh, good old Heschel is right. So this week, as we prepare to, as we wrap up our session today and we look forward to next week, my question to you that I want to pose and for you to work this week between our sessions is, you may hear someone say, where are you? Maybe in different scenarios. Where are you? Hey, where are you? Where are you? If you hear those 3 words between this class and next week, I want you to just sort of stop and pause and take a mental note. A, what did it sound like? And B, how did you respond? We're gonna start our next class. Ayeka, where are you? And we're gonna dive into Abraham's response, Hineni. Thanks for being with me today.
That's with the land.
So,
That's done.
That'll wrap.
do I go ahead and leave?
Yeah.
There's always.
Yeah. I'm glad it's doing it.